Hi, everyone. Indeed, from my end as well. Welcome to this Brand Religions webinar, and good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. I hope you're doing well. This is the menu for the next hour. I'll give you an introduction on the brand religions and how we came up with it and how to frame it. We will then deep dive into a number of these or all these religions from a certain perspective, and then we'll open up a Q&A and hopefully answer any questions that you have. Before I elaborate on the brand religions, I do want to say that this is a teaser session. We will not elaborate on all the details or be able to go in depth on all the case studies that we have, but I'm gladly referring you to our book scene, which will be made available for you after the session. Normally, this session is a 2-hour, 3-hour, or even a full day workshop. So I hope you understand that we can't tackle all of the details of each of the religions. Brand religions. What is it? Where does it come from? And why did we come up with it? When we were looking at the market research or the marketing literature on branding and how to be successful with brands in the market, we saw that many books have been published. Each of them have their own theoretical frameworks, conceptual models, or KPIs. And it leads to confusion. It can lead to confusion among brand owners and marketeers because of the fact that they simply don't know what to do. It can lead to confusion because they're inconsistently jumping from one framework or theoretical model to the other. And that's actually what's not supposed to happen when you go for a consistent brand strategy. So we were thinking, how can we provide some structure around this? And we came up with the metaphor of religions, or a philosophy, if you want. If you look or consider at what religions have done for human beings, it actually provides them a framework to hold on to and to explain things that are very complex, environments that are very complex and hard to explain or understand. It's a pursuit or an interest that is followed by a group of people with great devotion. Or if you translate it as or explain it as a philosophy, it's a theory or attitude that acts as a guiding principle for behavior. So if you think about it, a religion could be also a brand religion, because indeed it is a framework or a theoretical model that one could follow as a guiding principle, and that those principles would guide your branding behavior and strategy. So we came up with 5 religions. The first religion is the classic religion. It is based on the thinking of Philip Kotler. The basic beliefs or principle of the classic religion are that you need to segment, target your market, and then position your brands such that they occupy a differentiation in the market, that they are different and unique compared to competitors. You do this by means of adding integrated marketing communication to it to ultimately build brand equity. An extension of the classic religion is the relationship religion. And the relationship religion is there to ultimately build loyalty beyond reason, or to build, as we say it, brand love. The path to building brand love is to ensure that your consumers identify with your brand, that there is overlap between the person's individual values as well as the values that your brand wants to convey. In order to do that, one also needs to trigger the right emotions, both positive or sometimes even negative, to achieve brand love. A third religion, that we labeled, is the influencer religion. And the influencer religion is all about word of mouth, both online as well as offline. The principle or core principle of this influencer religion is that you need to market not to people, but through people. It's about finding those influencers that want and can spread the message for you. Obviously, as a brand, you need to provide content that is conversation worthy. A fourth religion is the experience religion. And the experience religion is ultimately there to build memorable experiences, and memories among your consumers. In order to do that, you need to transcend your core product and really go beyond in terms of providing an experience that is much more than just a product or the naked service that you buy. Therefore, you need to interact rather than act from a top-down perspective with your target groups. Finally, we identified a fifth religion, which we labeled the penetration religion. And the penetration religion is probably the one that is most different from any of the religions that we have so far discussed. It's based on the thinking of Byron Sharp. It is based on the belief that you should go for acquisition, that you should make sure that as many people in your market buy and use your product. You should not really think about retention because according to Byron Sharp, retention is an illusion. You should also not target target specific segments in your market. No, you should look at your market as a homogeneous entity, and you should just target, if at all, you should just target light users because you will also reach heavy users. And the penetration religion also says that it's all about being available, both physically available in stores and consumption and buying moments, as well as mentally available in the minds of consumers. So we mapped these different religions because at Insights, we want to support our clients and our brands in their brand strategy and help them also in translating that into research programs and applications. So let me take you through each of these religions in a fast pace. The classic religion. Classic religion, as I mentioned, is based on the research and the groundbreaking thoughts and models of this man. He can be considered the god of contemporary marketing and branding strategy, Philip Kotler. I'm sure you have come across many of his ideas when you were having marketing classes at university or business school. We have built also in our book scene these religions around a number of beliefs. And there's 3 beliefs for each of the religions. For the classic religion, the first and core belief is that differentiation is key through STP, through segmenting, targeting, and then positioning your brand onto the market. The way of doing this is to use only one way, and one way is your only way. What that refers to is that you need to invest in integrated marketing and multi-channel communication to ultimately achieve what is actually labeled as the third belief, is that all these efforts need to lead into building brand equity, because that's ultimately what you want to achieve. Let's have a look at a quick example. Bosch, which is a company that is operating in many verticals and many industries, but Bosch also has a division on thermotechnology. Heat pumps, heating installations and plumbing applications, as well as ventilation systems and air conditionings. What we have done for Bosch is to segment both the consumer market as well as their professional market of installers. A natural and easy, obvious way to segment the market would be to use demographics or firmographics, such as age or the number of employees that work at an installer, or just simply the number of installations they have in provide or put in over the course of a year. What we have done at Insights for Bosch is we have used cluster ensemble techniques and used needs-based or applied a need-based segmentation. We looked at dimensions or bases to segment the installer's market, such as how do you run your business? How do you sell most effectively? But some installers are interested in the actual installation and the top notch of technology. Others are then again interested more into servicing their clients. By using these techniques, we came up with 5 segments, going from traditionalists over innovators to people that are really support seekers or proud craftsmen. We brought these to life by means of several workshops, but in the end, it allowed Bosch by means of a segmentation typing tool to develop a more targeted strategy, to provide a strategy and messages to their sales force in terms of approaching each of these clients. But it also helped Bosch to customize services, rewards, and training programs to their markets. A completely different example is that of KitKat. It's not about necessarily segmenting, targeting, and positioning, but it's about that third belief in terms of building and maintaining brand equity. I'm sure you know the chocolate-covered wafer KitKat. It's actually very consistent in terms of quality and history, and affordable throughout the world. That's the rational route. If you look at the emotional route, it has built brand equity by means of creating a youthful and a fun and quirky image that is laid back and provides warmth and comfort. I'm sure that many of you recognize the Have a Break, Have a KitKat tagline, that they will recognize that it creates childhood memories for them, or that it will even create a KitKat mania, meaning that you finish a wafer and you actually have a craving for a next one immediately after. In line with the classic religion, what KitKat has done or does is to try and maintain that brand equity and build and support it by means of its advertising. Let's have a look at the following advertisement. This advertisement was inspired by our creative crowdsourcing community, ICA. And the briefing that we gave to these creatives was to create a funny and relatable story where people react dramatically to frustrating situations. And you can see that the funny and quirky way of this advertising is in full support with the customer-based brand equity model that I just showed you. These are just two examples of the classic religion or brands that have applied techniques for it. Let's have a look at the relationship religion. The relationship religion too is built around three beliefs. The first one is that you need to trigger the right emotions such that people engage and act in the way that you want it. Secondly, you need to create an identifiable identity. You need to ensure that people identify with your brand in the right way. And then in the end, you need to look at building a relationship in the long term. It's a true investment in building long-lasting love or loyalty beyond reason. If we look at a number of advertisements or applications, here's a good example of triggering the right emotions. We have done a lot of research for UNICEF and have tried to understand which stimuli, which advertisement stimuli trigger people to donate more and most. We have found by means of no-go implicit measurement tasks and put people under time pressure, we had found that images like this one are the most effective to trigger people to donate. And there are pictures where you not only show the problem, the child in this case, but you also show the solution in terms of the caregiver who solves or is trying to solve the child's problem. By means of finding these and testing these stimuli and knowing that it triggers the right emotions, we can develop better advertising. Here's another example that triggers the right emotions. The Open Like Never Before campaign of Coca-Cola.
Niels, there is a technical issue with the sound. We can't hear it. Perhaps we can try again.
Apologies. Can you hear it now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I'm in LA.
Stop. Wait. Who says we have to go back to normal? Back to anything? What if the new normal ain't the normal we knew? And we can't just do what we'd formerly do? What if the biggest change is you and me? What if we choose to be open and say, I will never call my job unimportant again. I'll never say the teacher's holidays are too long. Or that school is dry and I can't wait to move on. My ears are not my earphones.
What if I listen?
What if I'm missing how bright your eyes glisten? What if I just smile a bit, travel less and love every mile of it? What if I believe in the change my cooking, my music can do? Hey, what if I don't dance, but just for you? I might give in to the rhythm soon. What if I refuse to be a stranger in my own living room? And I'll learn my lesson from a bad memory. And I'll keep social distance from bad energy. And I'll prove that funny beats sexy any day. But I'm still cute anyway. What if my dreams never take the back seat again? What if I'm there whenever you need a friend? What if I celebrate my skin, my body, my hair every day? Even Mondays. And I stand by every word I say. I'll make my vote count, make my voice heard today.
You know what?
I will never
say the city has too many chores.
I'll lead like a woman. I'll have a family of dozens. I'll give my little nephews and nieces some cousins. I'll stay right beside you. I'll say yes, I do. See, I'll never forget how much struggle we are together. I'll carry that in my heart forever. We'll weather the storm. So I'll be open like never before.
Pretty strong advertising campaign that taps into very explicit and right emotions, if you ask me. And very proud that as Insights Consulting, we were able to help and test and evaluate storyboards out of home testing, optimized the message, helped to look at brand fit as well as the emotional balance that the advertising reigns, but also tactical topics, whether it should be dubbed or subbed in specific countries, and provide contextual elements such as Black Lives Matters. It was tested and developed by Coca-Cola in plenty or full COVID times and aired barely 4 weeks after this testing. What's core for brands, as I already mentioned in the relationship religion, is to create what we call brand identification, that there's overlap between an individual's personality and that of a brand that it conveys. We have done a recent study in the Netherlands among banks, and we could find that only 24% of the people strongly identify with the main bank they do business with for a variety of core financial services. Nevertheless, achieving such brand identification between individuals and banks and their main bank is of crucial importance. When we look at loyalty, for example, people who strongly identify with their main bank have a 25% higher resistance to switching towards a challenger in the market. It's also important to then understand what, for example, the brand archetype is behind people who identify with their main bank. What we found is that most people identify across the board with their bank and provided a brand archetype such as a sage. But that's a hygiene factor, because a sage means that you understand in full what you're doing with. And we obviously, as consumers, hope that banks are capable of doing that. Other brand archetypes are really spread in the market. But the people who strongly identify with their main bank think or perceive their bank as being an innocent brand archetype, and that provides safety and care for them after all. So it's a great opportunity in the market for Dutch banks to actually adopt this brand archetype. As I mentioned, the relationship religion is ultimately about building long-lasting love. It's about not just loyalty or rewards or status points. It's not just a linear program, but you need to invest in something that really makes a difference in the personal lives of your consumer. A company that does this for its riders is Uber. Yes, they have a reward and a loyalty system that goes from gold over platinum to diamonds. And yes, these drivers that get good reviews can get reductions or discounts at gas stations. They can get free dental repairs, dent repairs, or they can actually get benefits from insurance companies. But if you achieve the absolute highest level as a driver, you get a perk that is extremely valuable and worth a lot of money, especially in the US. What that is free tuition fees at the Arizona State University. And this is something that really goes beyond driving. It is a perk or an advantage that makes a difference in these drivers' life. So with this scheme, Uber is really trying to invest in terms of loyalty and create and benefits and create loyalty beyond reason. We have done across the world, we have done several studies that go in the same direction. For Sun Life, for example, we have a Bright Minds community in the Philippines and Hong Kong. We engage with over 2,000 active consumers in each of these countries to provide and promote them healthier lives, but to also increase their financial literacy. So the service that Sun Life Financial as an insurance company wants to provide, that immediately also builds a relationship with them, because it is the ultimate goal to increase loyalty and engagement with its consumers. But love is something that you need to work on. It comes with ups and downs, and not every brand is able to keep up and identify and follow how their consumers think in the market. If you will read our book scene, you will find an example of Abercrombie & Fitch, who was once a company or a brand that was loved by so many, but now has fallen out of love for as many people as they were before in love with. A company that has, or a brand that has understood the evolving thoughts of its consumer base was Axe Lynx from Unilever. When Axe was positioned, or Lynx was positioned across the world, I'm sure you agree with me that it was on masculinity in terms of sexuality. If you would spray an Axe product on your body, herds of women would come to you and simply fall in love. The ideas and the definition of masculinity, however, have evolved strongly over the recent times. In order to understand this and to make sure that the repositioning of the brand in terms of brand positioning statements, advertisement, packaging, tone of voice, etc., that these were adapted closely to these changing views on masculinity. Unilever engaged in a structural community and gathered insights from consumers throughout this creative process. Let's have a look at the influencer religion. The influencer religion is all about word of mouth. So conversations cut through the clutter. Second belief of the influencer religion is that you need to find the right influencers, or disciples if you want, to spread the message. You need to market through people and not to people. And thirdly, in order to be able to do that, people need to find that your content is conversation worthy, that it is useful for them to talk about. So you need to create content as a brand, and that content needs to have a purpose. Research at MIT has shown that 19% of all purchase decisions can be brought back to a conversation. 9% can be brought back to an online conversation, and 10% to offline word of mouth. They are both different in terms of what they do. For example, online conversations are much more about social signaling, while offline conversations are really more about convincing somebody to buy or not to buy a product or a service. A brand that has built its entire marketing mix around conversations is the Dutch chocolate manufacturer Tony Chocolonely. Tony Chocolonely has as a purpose or a mission to make chocolate, to get slavery out of the chocolate business and out of the chocolate value chain. This cannot be won alone. It needs a network of people that engage in conversations and that engage in conversations convincing others that what's happening in the chocolate industry is not the way it should be. and already starts at the product design. As you can see, this chocolate bar here is divided in unequal parts of chocolate. If we both have a piece of this chocolate and you get a smaller piece than a piece that I get, you will ask, why do I get a smaller piece? And it starts the conversation that also in the chocolate business, the profits are not divided equally either, and nor is the chocolate here in this case. But it also is translated into Tony Chocolonely's sampling strategy. You will never get one bar of chocolate of Tony Chocolonely. You will always get two, one to enjoy yourself and one to give away to your friends or family, again, to start a conversation. Also, their packaging, as you can see on this image, engages or stimulates people to go online on social media and spread the word. To spread the word about the fact that Tony Chocolonely is crazy about chocolate, but serious about people, and that the ultimate goal is to get 100% slave-free chocolate industry. So this is all about marketing through people and not marketing to people. It's about creating a ripple effect that if you make a drop, that people keep on talking and that word of mouth goes as a running fire throughout your business or your value chain or among your target groups. And often though, to achieve that, you need to handpick a number of influencers or carefully select them. A brand that is leading in many categories and that does this or applies these techniques over and over again is Samsung. Obviously, their innovation as such is already content, and so that creates conversations as such. But they also pick influencers to create, for example, scarcity. In Asia, they engaged with K-pop group BTS to launch one of their new phones recently. The phone just sold out in a matter of hours. Another company that takes it even one step further is Adidas. They not only involve their fans in telling, but also involve some of their fans in selling specific exclusive sneakers. They have what they call Creators Club. It's a group of ultimate fans of Adidas. They selected about 10,000 of them and provided them the opportunity through a mobile app to actually sell exclusive pairs of shoes. And when they do so, they get a 6% commission, or they can donate it to Girls on the Run, which is an Adidas charity partner. So this is more than even telling, it's really engaging your fans into commerce. What is key, of course, is the selection of your influencers. And there's many examples of celebrities that can be chosen as influencers, but many influencer strategies focus on what we call micro-influencers. I won't go into details, but there's definitely more details in the book scene. But in a nutshell, what it boils down to is that there's a certain threshold as to the number of followers that influencers could have or should have before they are no longer considered to be as passionate or authentic about a specific topic. And that level of number of followers is definitely at 1 million. Ideally around 10,000 is what research shows. And all in all, research has shown that micro-influencers are almost 7 times as effective than macro influencers in engaging audiences and being passionate about what they talk about. An example that was applied successfully on Twitter was the launch of the Harry Potter theme park by Universal Studios. What Universal Studios did was to select 7 handpicked microbloggers who were big fans of Harry Potter as a theme and the books and the characters. They invited them to a secret midnight webcast from Dumbledore's office. After the webinar or after the seminar, they were allowed to blog and spread the word. In only 24 hours, the news went completely viral and reached more than 350 million people across the world. A launch of a theme park with almost no marketing budget involved or required. And we've done similar research for Twitter as well, where we looked into 75 sub-communities to truly understand how brands can be relevant in each of these and provide worthy content for these audiences. By means of a combination of data science techniques and primary research, we also engaged with our Illumi network. And our Illumi network is a network of leading edge consumers and influencers who truly understand what is driving people in each of these subsegments, in this case, health, music, football, and gaming. And so sometimes it's really interesting or important to engage with your leading edge consumers to fully understand how people and how influencers work and what they can do for your brands. But we haven't only done it for social media brands. We've also applied it for GSK, for example, in the dental solution space. We engaged again with these leading edge consumers and looked at the human drivers model that we developed. People are searching for meaning in their lives and relationships and achievement and positive emotions, as well as health and security. And these Illumi guides, these leading edge consumers, provide us real guidance in terms of what to develop in terms of marketing propositions such that you can stimulate conversations. Let's have a look at the third religion, which is the experience religion. The experience religion is all about creating experiential layers around your brand. It is based on three principles. Transcend the product throughout, meaning at scale, not just one brand activation. That's just something that evaporates and does not create a long-lasting effect. It's also about interacting rather than acting. It's about engaging in conversation and making sure that your consumers become part of the brand and the usage of your products and your services. And then ultimately, it's all about creating memorable impressions. When you think about transcending the core product, it is based on the belief that material things or even core services are easy to replicate, but experiences are not easy to replicate. Let me give you an example. Tux is a brand of bodywear geared towards women and provides high-end products. And it's based on the principle that women invest in clothing if it provides them empowerment. If women need to feel confident because they have a date, because they have a job interview, because they have a professional event, they will invest in clothing. The idea is therefore that when you buy a piece of clothing at Tux, you actually get coach sessions with every purchase. You get 10 coach sessions with Iana Rhyme, who happens to be a professional and a leader, a thought leader in dealing with setbacks and communicating better. So this brand goes beyond the real quality products to appeal to millennials and Gen Z. Gen Z cares little about brand heritage as such. They invest in products if it's about interaction and if they get values or if they get value that is in sync with their lifestyle. Here, in this case, empower women to look and feel at their best. We have done quite some research for KLM that also looks at creating experiences and meaningful experiences that make a difference for clients. If you have ever flown in normal times intercontinentally, you know that transferring from one plane to another or changing terminals can be a stressful situation in your journey. And now may seem evident that you have a mobile app that will guide you through your transfer, or that your in-flight transfer videos will also provide you guidance as to what to do. Or when you leave the plane, that there is an agent waiting for you who can help you in making your transfer. But it wasn't the case, or it wasn't so self-evident a couple of years ago. By means of communities that would map these transfer journeys, we were able to identify innovation in the service design of KLM. And KLM goes even a step further. They have a campaign or an application which is called Takeoff Tips. If you're flying from Amsterdam to Oslo or to London, you can basically connect with a counterpart at your destination who's making the reverse trip. So somebody who's traveling from Oslo to Amsterdam or from London to Amsterdam. If you don't have access to the lounge or you don't want to go for tax-free shopping, you can make this dead moment valuable. You can connect through technology based on holograms. You can connect with this person on the other side and exchange where to go to, what museums to visit, what restaurants, and maybe even link them with your friends such that you have a great and memorable experience. This is an example of a service that goes beyond the core service of KLM, meaning flying from point A to point B. But it's not only services that invest in these type of journeys and these type of experiences. Henkel actually creates or wants to create a shopper journey in which shoppers can interact both in online and offline touchpoints in all stages of the journey. By means of ongoing communities that send people on missions, we have been able to capture over 6,500 in-context touchpoints to be able to tap into the right emotions, develop or provide the right information in line with people's needs, as well as which channels to use. We have come up with new service and communication ideas each step of the way. So as I mentioned, it's all about creating memorable expressions. Why is that? Because if you can create something that's memorable, it creates a multiplier effect for brands in a connected as well as an offline world. It gives your brand a longer shelf life, if you want. Now, what is a memorable experience? A memorable experience needs to consist of 3 dimensions. It needs to be special or exclusive. It needs to stimulate or combine senses, and it needs to stun, delight, or surprise your audience. A brand that has focused and played a lot on the special aspect is Levi's, in which you can tailor your products and your clothing accordingly. New York Times, for example, has also played on combining AR and VR with hardcore journalism. So it stimulates multiple senses in that perspective. Let me focus a little bit on the stun aspect, which is all about surprise and delight. A brand that has consistently focused on creating surprises is MasterCard, with its offer of priceless surprises. It has, over the course of time, surprised over 97,000 cardholders in more than 27 countries. And obviously, these people can talk about it, and the conversation and the experience has a lasting, memorable effect. But surprise is hard to keep up with. It's not only about surprise, it has an expiration date. It should also be about delighting your customer base and your interactions with your customers. Research has shown that only 7% of service interactions exceeds people's expectations. And the experience religion basically says that a brand experience should all be about making it work. There will be a moment in time where the sentiment of your consumer will drop, that a problem occurs. Imagine a hotel. Oberoi Hotels, for example, provides its employees with the resources and the budget and the time to act upon certain problems and to turn a position of disappointment into a position of delight. If you do that, if you are able to create emotional change, that is what will stick with people. That is what will make an experience great, and that will create long-lasting stories that people will always remember. This is based on the peak-end rule in psychology, meaning that people remember experiences on its peaks, low as well as high, as well as how the experience ended after all. A company that has this in its DNA is a company called Chewy. Think of Amazon, but then everything for pets. It's an American-based company, and if you engage with them, if you order with them, they will ask you a lot of information about your pet. You will get handwritten birthday cards, for example, but you will also be extremely well pampered if you call their customer service. People that work at their customer service are not selected based on the skills of being a call center employee. No, they are selected for their passion and love for pets. Calls that last less than 5 minutes or below a certain threshold are scrutinized. And Chewy says, why did the call not last longer? The reason behind it is that many people, or most people, love talking about their pets. And so it creates a memorable experience for the people who engage with Chewy. We have applied this in research for SkyTeam. SkyTeam is the frequent flyer program of airlines like KLM, Air France, and Delta Airlines. Covering over 1,000 airports across the world and based on geolocation technology, people who are a member of the Sky Priority community can engage and evaluate 9 touch points, as I mentioned, over 1,000 airports across the world. If they approach JFK, the pop-up or the application opens and they are able to say yes or no, I feel treated as a Sky Priority member. But what they can also do is they can take a picture and upload that picture to provide context as to why they feel this way, positive or negative. That information is fed in almost real time to the stakeholders within each of these 20 airlines that are members of the Sky Priority network. That means that these managers can act upon it and really have a finger on the pulse of experiences and create the best experiences possible. Because after all, that's what Sky Team wants to do, is to create a seamless and memorable experience for its Sky Priority high-value members. Let's have a final look at the penetration religion. Penetration religion is based on the core principle that you need to grow your base. You need to focus on acquisition and not retention. You need to make sure that as many people in a market buy your product or your service. You should also focus on not segmenting and targeting your market. You need to target the entire market. You do not have to have separate marketing propositions according to a specific target group in your market. The reasoning behind that is that Byron Sharp, who is the founder or one of the leaders in this of this penetration religion, is that he says that a market is pretty homogeneous after all. If you do focus on a specific subgroup, he says focus on the light users, because then automatically you will reach your high users. A third belief of the penetration religion is that you need, as a brand, to build availability. You need to be physically as well as mentally available for consumers, or in other words, you need to be easy to buy. One of the core principles, as I just mentioned, is that retention is an illusion. And I'm sure that if you see this visual here, this will come across as strange, this Father Christmas holding a Pepsi bottle. And we'll come back and talk about distinctive assets in just a second. But what the penetration religion and Byron Sharp thinking says is that retention is an illusion in the sense that people have a repertoire of brands that they choose from. They may have 5 sodas that they consider, and from one context to the other, they will switch around. Research in the UK has shown that 72% of Coke drinkers also buy and drink Pepsi, just to prove that point. So at best, Byron Sharp says there is polygamous loyalty. So what a brand needs to do is therefore to just be available, to be easy to buy. And as I mentioned, availability has 2 components. Physical availability, which means be available in every store or vending machine or every moment in which a consumer could buy your product or your service. We will focus in this webinar on mental availability. And mental availability, again, consists of 2 elements. It consists of creating what we call distinctive assets. It is verbal, visual, auditory, or sensorial cues that make your brand easy to recognize and stand out. Category entry points, on the other hand, can be considered as occasions or consumption moments that people could consider or not consider your brand product or your service. This golden arch of McDonald's is probably one of the strongest distinctive assets that you can ever think of. From miles away, even kids recognize the restaurant. So that's the best definition I can give, is by showing this commercial to explain it. But McDonald's distinctive asset is so strong that they can even start to play with it. On Women's Day, for example, they can just flip it around and it draws people's attention and it's actually cool. But they go even one step further. If you look at how in Canada and the US, how restaurants of McDonald's are signaled, it's very inconsistent and often very hard to read. What McDonald's has done is they took their distinctive asset, the golden arch, and would just chop it to show people the way and say, it's your next right on the left, or you just missed us, you need to make a U-turn. So if you can develop brand distinctive assets that are so strong that it makes it easy for people to buy and recognize you, you've been doing a good job. And we've done a lot of research for looking at distinctive assets. And the core technique or tool that we use for this is that we show a distinctive asset, and under time pressure, we show brands and have people associate this brand with a specific asset. And what you want to achieve is that you have strong association between an asset and your brand, but you want to make sure that that the asset is uniquely related to your brand. If not, it's not a good asset for you, as it creates confusion and basically may be promoting your customer, your competitor. We've applied this for many of the coffee brands within the GDE group. And if you look to the left, this is the old or one of the older original packagings. If you look at the right, these are the new ones. And you can see, for example, for the first package, the Douwe Egberts package, that the distinctive asset of the aroma lady comes across as much more pertinent, as our research had shown that indeed this was missing from the original pack and people were not recognizing the pack as much in the shelf. The same for originally German brand Jacobs with the crown, where the crown in the second package is much more prominent than in the first. Same holds for Gevalia with the house on top of the brand name, which is indeed a distinctive asset that helps people to buy the product easier. But it's not only for FMCG or CPG brands that this can be applied. In Australia, we do a lot of work for Bank West, which is a smaller bank player. They were looking or are looking for innovative ways to stand out. Based on their communication and the tracking work that we did, we could show that several of the new assets that they have developed have been embedded and became synonymous or synonyms for Bank West. And it resulted in a significantly improved brand memorability across their advertising. So you can see that moving to the right in this chart, that the standout with the new visual identity and the new distinctive assets is much better and creates a distinctive payoff, if you want, for Bank West. There's many more examples to give on distinctive assets, and I gladly refer you to the book scene if you want to know more. But in closure of this penetration religion, I want to focus just on one more aspect, which are category entry points. And category entry points are contexts or cues that trigger brands directly in people's memories. Think of it as an occasion or a consumption or a buying occasion. If in a specific occasion your brand is thought of, is considered, then you have a high penetration in category entry points, and so you are mentally available. This is all about expanding consumption of your brand in other moments of truth. And a company or a brand that does this very well is Red Bull. You can already see that there's also distinctive assets in play here. But originally you could say, Red Bull gives you wings, and it's in terms of driving when you're tired and you need to go from point A to B. But their advertising will also focus on, routine jobs that you are doing. Teamwork in the office, get a Red Bull. Going back and forth and do a lot of chores of shopping and moving, get a Red Bull. Do Christmas shopping, get a Red Bull. So these are all different category entry points in which Red Bull is trying to get anchored into consumers' brains. What it is about, if you really want to understand category entry points, is to understand why people are using your brand, with what they are consuming your brand, where they are doing so, when they are doing so, and with whom. if you ask these 5 basic questions, you'll get a nice list of your category entry points. And then it's important to monitor in which category entry points you are doing better or worse than your competitor. We've been doing a lot of brand tracking for BBC, for example, and it was clear and evident that BBC was anchored into the category entry point of breaking news. And it was suffering quite a bit from the category entry point part of my everyday life, in which Facebook, which was not a traditional news medium, was obviously much, much stronger. By looking at these and monitoring these penetrations of BBC and Facebook in these different category entry points, and by focusing on elements such as the trustworthiness of BBC, we were able to focus on that and provide and adapt the marketing strategy to it. So this brings me to the end of the penetration religion, and we have discussed 5 religions: the classic, relationship, influencer, and experience religion, and then followed by the penetration religion. Penetration religion is probably the most diverse and different from all of these religions. But it is not our aim to say that one religion is better than the other. These religions have coexisted, but have also challenged the classic thinking of Philip Kotler. Why has that happened? For example, due to changes in technology. For example, the influencer religion gained a lot of importance with the venue of social media. Penetration religion is also because, scientific research would provide and shed new lights. The System 1, System 2 thinking, behavioral economics, the books of Byron Sharp have really challenged these ways of thinking. The experience religion too is mainly driven or often driven by means of technology and all the information that we have, so we can plan for surprise and delight. But again, not one religion is better than the other. Some of our clients choose a specific religion, and that's totally fine because it helps you get all the noses into one and the same direction. But at Insights, we feel that there's good in each of these religions, and that depending on your context, your competitive situation, your product life cycle, the goals that you have, the marketing budget that you have, several of these religions may become more or less important over the course of time. In fact, if you think about it, no 2 brands are the same. And so why, if they're not the same, if every brand is different, why would they have to be measured in the same way? So what it has in terms of implications for research is that you can think about it from a program perspective, but also that depending on the religion that you wish to follow or elements thereof, that you will want to change metrics, KPIs, or tools. And for sure, if you're engaged in brand tracking, you will want to adapt your tracking and make it more actionable. In a nutshell, what we do is when we look at branding and communication research, we look at it in 3 phases. There's the strategy work, and brand reflection work, which is really about understanding your brand and what it means for consumers. It's about studies such as brand archetypes, also brand equity studies, mental availability studies, or if you're in an influencer religion, why not assess the value of your influencers and the word of mouth that they generate. But you will develop new packaging. You will develop advertising or brand activation to support your strategic goals. You may also want to use your brand equity to innovate with your brand and go into brand stretching. So there you will want to create it, optimize it, and test it before you go into market. Once you're in market, it will obviously influence the way you track your brand, the way you track your communication or your advertisement, as well as your touch points. And so before I hand over back to Emily, we will do a couple of things for you after this webinar. We will share our content in this recording. You will get the book scene. You will get a number of blog post series if you want to read more. We're available to organize an inspiration session, which is, as I said, much longer and will hopefully not have the technical hiccup that we had. But we are also engaging and talking to many marketeers and insights professionals. So if you would want to have an interview and contribute to this, I would invite you to feel free and contact me and reach out. Because in brands, we do trust.